Welcome to the San Jose Hockey Now podcast. I'm Sheng, editor-in-chief of San Jose Hockey Now. You can also find me on Twitter, Sheng_Peng, on Blue Sky, Sheng Peng, and of course, also find my work at NBC Sharks.
And I'm Keegan McNally from my Twitter at _hockey, my website half-wellhockey.com, or at San Jose Hockey Now. This week, we bring back a new old friend in JD Young, JD Young from Locked On Sharks is gonna give us a little bit of a different perspective on where he sees the Sharks offseason going. But before all that, Sheng, how about a quick word from our sponsors?
Let's talk about Bring Hockey Back, bringhockeyback.net. They make awesome t-shirts. You've seen them. I'm wearing one. Jaws music.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Teaser, JD is going to be wearing one of those too in his segment coming up. And so you can they have new Sharks t-shirts coming out, and also too a reissue Director Revives t-shirt. So they have that coming out soon. And so go to bringhockeyback.net to buy those t-shirts. Put in San Jose Hockey Now coupon code for 15% off. And besides their t-shirts, which you know all about with bringhockeyback.net, but also too, if you have any custom jerseys for any size team or event or whatever, they do great work with that too. So go to them for any hockey jerseys that you're looking for. And guys, it helps us out if you go to them. So let them know that the San Jose Hockey Now people, our listeners, are supporting them. They're big fans of the podcast. So show them some love, please.
Love it. Before we get to the interview with JD, we got a quick couple topics to talk about, including the most important, that the San Jose Barracuda have advanced to the second round of the AHL Calder Cup playoffs. So congratulations to the Barracuda. We're going to talk a little bit about that, the prior series and the upcoming series against Colorado. And then just take a quick note about Matt Davis signing as a free agent. But we don't have a lot of other news, do we?
Yeah, it's not too much Shark stuff. That's why it was perfect to have JD on, because we kind of put on our GM caps, our Mike Rear caps, and we reformed if you're an old school Sharks fan, we reformed the three-headed monster. And the three-headed monster, the three GMs that the Sharks had at a certain period, I think in their third year. And so we form our kaiju.
GMs there. This head is right always. This head is right on the three-headed monster GM. This one's right.
But yeah. So anyway, oh wow, the Oilers scored again. Damn,
what?
Kings are done. Yeah,
no.
the Kings are done. So anyway, so that's a really fun segment with JD. I did want to also mention too a quick shout out to, I think it's Robert from Walmart. I was at Walmart yesterday, and Robert came up to me and started talking Sharks, and I guess he recognized me. And he also said that he's a big fan of JD's too. So I said, hey, we're going to be recording an episode.
Hey.
Team up episode. And so anyway, so shout out to Robert. So thank you for listening. And JD would say the same thing too if he were here.
Robert, Walmart shopper.
No, he works at Walmart.
Oh, okay. Well, he could be a Walmart shopper too.
I've been shopping at Walmart.
I have a quick aside. When I was in college, I was coming out of a Walmart, and a local news team was interviewing people coming out of Walmart about, I don't even remember what. But anyway, I got on the local news, and it said Keegan McNally, and underneath it says Walmart shopper. So now there's like a screenshot that's floating around on like my Facebook page. It says Keegan McNally, Walmart shopper is my tagline. I have no other tagline.
Keegan, is this your first brush with celebrity before being the co-host of the San Jose Hockey Now podcast?
It was. I'm actually going to just have Walmart shopper underneath my little tagline from now on.
I like that. I like that. We should ask Bring Hockey Back to make you a Walmart shopper t-shirt.
Trust me, it's a thing. Anyway, do you want to talk about the Barracuda? Let's talk about the Barracuda.
And actually, very exciting. I talked with Patrick Williams. He's been on the show before. Find all his work. AHL, he is the man when it comes to AHL reporting. And so I asked Patrick his thoughts of the upcoming Barracuda-Eagles series. And so we'll talk about that coming right up right now.
Love it. JD talked about it too. We mentioned with him, but yeah, the first games felt like a grindy Barracuda team that was like
against the Rain in the first
yes
round, right?
against Ontario. It felt just like a grind fest. I think the final scores were 2-0 and 2-1, and Askarov obviously stealing the show.
Right.
But it didn't feel like I don't know what the word is. In some ways, it felt like Barracuda hockey, but it was like we're missing a lot of skill guys that have been out with injury, like Bordelot and Gushchin and everything. So I'm excited to see if we get some guys back for this next series because that's what I want I want some goals, I want some excitement, even though it was a awesome games to watch against the Rain.
Well, number one, I think it's good to see the Rain win. I'm sorry, the Barracuda win that way
Yes,
because that's playoff winning hockey.
that's
And
the
I actually
winner.
wrote about that, right, in
Yep.
game two, right? And so I think it's good that they can do that. It's also good to see that in the third period, second and third periods of game two against the Rain, that Askarov took over
Yes.
because the Barracuda weren't quite as good in those periods. And so good to see that they can win that way too. And on offensive component, Gushchin and Lucas Carlson, should both be ready for the series. They've both been practicing part of regular line rushes. And so, especially Gushchin, well, both actually, Gushchin and Carlson are both excellent on the power play. And that's one thing, if you were to really criticize anything about the Barracuda in that first round series, the power
Yep.
play was very, very poor in that first round series. And so, getting Carlson, excellent, obviously, a quarterback, right? And he's a guy that scored 20 goals before in the AHL, and he is your second unit power play quarterback. That's pretty good. That speaks to how good a season Luca Cagnoni is having.
Absolutely.
And Daniil Gushchin leads the AHL in power play goals. So you're just missing Podorowski from that group, and then you have a completely dynamic power play. But so Gushchin, Carlson should be back. Podorowski looks like it's still going to be a little more time, though he is back in San Jose and he did skate today a little bit, granted, just in his warm-ups, but so he's taking steps toward his recovery. I think there's a hope that he could come back in his series, but maybe in the later part of the series, maybe it's a kind of a faint hope. Bordelot is closer. Bordelot is day to day, and Bordelot has been skating on his own. He has an upper body injury, and so hopefully Bordelot can make his return in this series.
Yeah, but it was cool to get some other guys in there scoring for the big goals for the Barracuda, and also watching like just what happens when you have an elite goaltender. Like Askarov's an elite goalie at this level. He's not
Sure,
just like
he is.
a good passable goalie. Like he is an elite goalie, and it was good to see him steal a series essentially. Like obviously Barracuda played well, but he was the star for sure. So they got to continue that. They got a good team. We could do this. We could get some San Jose hockey playoff wins.
I think it's possible. I've been talking with a lot of scouts. They liked
Mhm.
how the Barracuda played in the first round.
Yeah.
Like I said, I actually thought the Barracuda they made Askarov's life pretty easy the first
Mhm.
four periods in LA there, the first
Sure.
game, and in the first period against game two. But then Askarov took over, and so I think it's good that they're not just riding just Askarov
Yeah.
because it's hard to just ride obviously just one person or one position for an entire playoff run. And we know they have a lot of offense firepower, which is, like I said, starting to get healthier here. And so I think there is the makings of something here. I still have
Mhm.
questions about their defense in terms of a long run,
Yeah.
but Askarov can help paper over some of that. And I think their forward group is very, 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 very dynamic for the AHL. I mean, just imagine Podorowski and Bordelot back as options, but also too, even without those two, the way they've been running their lineup. So Walker Dewar, it looks like he might not play tomorrow in game one against the Eagles. And
Mhm.
Walker Dewar in the NHL, he's a fourth liner, but in the AHL, look at some of his numbers. This guy's a pretty good AHL player.
Mhm.
And if you can afford to not play a guy like that, but instead, I know some fans don't get it, but guys like Lucas Van Roboys, Anthony Vincent, right, Houlet, those guys are identity guys. Those guys they play
Sure.
playoff winning hockey. Scott Sabrin's in that group too. And so if you wonder why Quentin Musty, Igor Chernyshov, or Walker Dewar, right, if they're not in the lineup, it's because You want to create a balanced team. You want a team that can play kind of big boy hockey at all times, like the Barracuda were doing against the Reign. And so, anyway, I think that we'll see how far they get in the playoffs. But I think there's a story in here in terms of just how well. Actually, JD touches on it in his segment, but how well Joe Will and
Yep.
Mike Greer. Joe was the GM of the Barracuda. How well they built this Barracuda team, even throughout the season, just acquisitions like Dewar, Pavel Regenda,
Yep.
guys like that, and also, like I said, the acquisitions before of basically they created a identity line out of free agent signings. Van
Yeah.
Roblois and Houlet and Vincent were all signings out of, I think, college, or Houlet is out of the Q, I think, or maybe maybe he's a college signing too. I'm not really sure, but
Mhm.
anyway, though.
Yeah, no, and we last year when we talked with Patrick Williams and when we talked with Joe Will, that was a huge part of it. Was like the
Mhm.
free agent acquisitions. What are you going to do to make this team not just a bunch of rookies, not just a bunch of
Right.
young kids? And it was addressed and addressed really well. Obviously, adding Askarov helps, but not just that. There was a bunch of good AHL players that were added, and good guys like Podorowski and Carlson and everything that like fit specific needs, and they went out and they got it, and
Yep.
that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little bit easier than acquiring your number one center than in the NHL, but
But they acquired number one center in the AHL at least.
yeah, exactly. But so that credit to them. We had questions last year, especially with there was like some Barracuda drama with Martin Kaut and everything. We had questions and they answered it for the
Yeah.
most part. We'll see how deep it goes, and we could still have more questions if they get blown out by Colorado in every game. But we'll see.
But it's a great callback, though, to that interview we did with
Yep.
Joe Will last summer, that the Barracuda, they addressed the high end kind of problems, right? Where maybe they were putting too much weight on their younger players like Gushin or Bordelot, and
Mhm.
on guys that maybe weren't number ones in the AHL like Nathan Todd. And they got a true number one center. Andrew Paul just won the AHL MVP. And they got a star defenseman, maybe not a number one defenseman, but a star defenseman in Lucas Carlson at this level. And add that to obviously Cagnoni just delivering like crazy this year. Rookie of the year, basically in AHL, more or less. I'm not sure if he's going to win. I don't know if they even give that award out, but I mean, I think he is on the all rookie team, and he should be
Yep.
easily. And so they address the high end, but they also address the depth part with
Yep.
guys like Van
Vincent
Roblois and
Robois.
so on, right? And then in the middle of the season too, like guys like Regenda's been really good for them.
Mhm.
Power play, net front guy, size, which they were looking for, and also other Sharks acquisitions like Giles and Ostapchuk,
Yep.
which they knew would also help the AHL team out, and they have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's and it gives us a little bit of extra hockey, and on top of our, because like right now we're all watching non-Sharks hockey in the actual NHL playoffs, but this is a little bit of San Jose playoff action, which I'm excited about.
I think this is good too for the development of obviously the guys who are playing, the young guys like
Yeah,
Cagnoni,
absolutely.
Ostapchuk, and guys like that. But I think it's also good. I think it's underrated that this is also good for the guys who aren't playing, like Musty and Chernyshov. They're seeing pro preparation. They're seeing guys like Polarowski when he's around, Scott Sabrin, how the pros are preparing for these huge games, these playoff games, right? And such a step up. I don't, some people expect, oh, just pop in Musty Chernyshov into this lineup. These guys are 19. And the CHL to the AHL playoffs too, like
Hmm.
that's such a huge jump. It's really not fair to expect them to help the team out in the playoffs immediately like that. That just is not a realistic expectation, in my opinion. And it's not to say that they won't play at all during these playoffs. Maybe they will, but obviously, though, that John McCarthy is kind of going with the guys that he knows, that he trusts, and it's working.
Yeah. And LBD mentioned like Colin Graff coming back from the NHL,
Oh,
another
sure.
guy
Yep.
that's getting, yeah, Graff and Cagnoni both look like in like the third period against Ontario was like we were trying to get some offense going, and it felt like those guys were definitely drivers. Them and Cardwell as well.
Right. The
Looked like a
game-winning
good,
goal was
yeah.
yeah, those two there.
So
I think one guy they really do miss though is Mukumadulin.
Sure.
And not the Mukmadulin with the Barracuda this year, because honestly, when he was with the Barracuda earlier this season, he wasn't very good.
Yeah, he's fine.
But the Mukmadulin that we saw with the Sharks at the end of the season,
Yep.
in my opinion, that's a game changer, a difference maker on a defense, and that kind of rounds out their defense too, where they have a lot of great puck movers in Jack Thompson and Carlson and Cagnoni.
Yep.
And they have a good shutdown guy in Jimmy Schull, and actually sneaky. Ethan Frisch has done a very nice job for them. He's a Barracuda signing, but he's done a very nice job for them. But I think a guy like Mukmadulin, the way that he was taking away time and space at AHL level with his kind of skating and his reach, the way he was playing, I think he would have been a difference maker. Offensively, yes, but defensively for the Barracuda in this playoff run. So that's kind of a shame that he's not around.
Yeah, it definitely would add a little bit more confidence, I think, going to the next round.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, Colorado's an excellent team. That's something also to keep in mind. They're playing a very, very good team with Jacob McDonald, the Jacob McDonald hype train leading the way. But we'll see. You're watching LA.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find the Avs Colorado games. I guess that game's tied now. So because I switched to the Kings game, but then they went to intermission. The Kings are done. The Oilers look like they're going to move on. Even though
they're
the Kings
not done.
Scored late, scored a late goal there. Yeah, 5-3.
Don't give up. That's like the one game, the one bracket I think I'm going to get wrong is that one, because I thought the Kings would pull it out, and I was looking so good for like parts of 2 games, but.
All right. But I wanted to, if you don't have anything else to say about the series, I actually wanted to mention Patrick Williams, what Patrick said about it.
Sure.
Sorry, let me find it. So anyway, so he gave a scouting report on the Eagles. So anyway, check out Patrick Williams, P Williams AHL on Twitter, X, P Williams AHL at P Williams AHL.
There it is.
There it is. But Patrick said that, they're obviously the Eagles are the top team in the division. They had the bye in the first round. That could be one factor that works in the Barracuda's favor. The Eagles have basically been off for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and the Reign have played obviously a couple of games there against the Barracuda played against the Reign. So
yeah.
So Patrick says of the Eagles, and I'm quoting here. So special teams are excellent, deep scoring, well structured, one of the most complete teams in the league. For Patrick, they're the biggest contender, Calder Cup contender in the Western Conference, along with Milwaukee, the Admirals, and the Texas Stars.
Okay.
He mentions the concern, obviously, about the long layoff for the Eagles. And the Barracuda do have the advantage, too, that the first 2 games are going to be in San Jose. The AHL, I don't want to – we explained this the last time. AHL has a lot of weird different playoff rules. But anyway, they do 2-3 in this round here, the second round. So first 2 in San Jose, last 3 in Colorado. But that kind of short time frame, it makes a factor like the Eagles not playing for so long that Barracuda can jump on that tomorrow potentially. But he ultimately picks. He does like that Gush and Carlson are probably coming back, and Podorowski, if he's able to come back, that'll help him out. But Gush and Carlson are important players. He does go Colorado in 5 though in this 5-game series.
In 5.
Yeah, he likes the Barracuda, though. I think a lot of people have been impressed, again, how they played against the Reign. And if it was just Askarov making saves every period and they were, like, outshot, they were doubled up, that's not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
But what the Barracuda showed in LA was that they could play some sustainable winning hockey, too, along with having arguably the best goalie in the playoffs. And so that having those 2 elements, and then you start to add, like you mentioned, a little more scoring, and you suddenly look has a team, the looks of a team that can make a run, and that's what Patrick says too. That wouldn't shock him if this Barracuda team made a run.
I love it. That's it. What else happened this week?
Not
Anything?
a lot in Sharks land.
Nada.
Will Smith goes to the World Championship, so
Sweet.
kind of expected that. Also too, you were going to talk about Matt Davis.
I appreciate Matt Davis being signed from college. I don't know. It felt right. We got another goaltender from Denver. I don't have much to say. I watched Matt Davis in the NCAA playoffs and everything. I think he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any expectations for him. I think it's going to be a bounce around from a couple different levels for him. But yeah, I got nothing important to say other than he did sign. That's
Okay. Well, he's a good
it.
shot to take, though. I've
Yeah,
done a
I
couple
think
stories
I
about
agree.
Matt, so that you can find on San Jose Hockey Now. One was a scout's take on Matt, which wasn't great, but look, there's a reason why he didn't get an AHL contract, right?
Yeah,
That he signed with the AHL team, and despite his national championship pedigree and his gaudy stats, that people aren't really seeing him project.
yeah.
And not just because he's on the shorter side, he's 6'1". He is a real
Mhm.
6'1", by the way. I interviewed him in LA, and he is a real 6'1", but
You measured it.
did
You brought your
measure it.
tape
So
measure.
maybe he's not quite there, but
You
he
brought your
looked a
tape
real
measure.
6'1" to me.
Well, that like I think people had the same questions about Corona when he came out too, other than Corona's like 6'5" or
Oh yeah,
whatever.
Crone's a giant. Cronin was drafted too, so it is a
And he
different
was
kind of thing.
drafted. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was like a 7th or something though, right? Wasn't he?
He's a fifth rounder, I think.
5th
Actually, it
round.
doesn't really matter, but yeah, like
But
yeah,
yeah,
he
so
was
there's a
late
little
on
bit
the later
different. He's
side.
bigger, but those same questions, right? Like he had gaudy stats because he played for a great team. So, but yes, I think Corona was considered a better prospect.
Oh, Colorado just took the lead. Oh, crazy game. Uh,
Did
it
they?
the
Jeez.
Yeah, they just did. Yeah, yeah.
No.
It's
My
just the
stars.
shots that you take, though, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna work out. I think the most obvious comparison is Strauss Mann.
Mhm.
A lot of
I
pedigree.
forgot about Strauss, man.
Yeah. What the scout said about Matt Davis was, yeah, maybe not the most athletic or technical, but he just is super competitive. And I
Sure.
think that kind of matches with Strauss Mann, who is also
Yeah.
undersized and also maybe not the most athletic, but the right kind of drive. And those are guys that you take shots on, and maybe they get better and maybe they don't. And it's fine. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that was a bad chance. It's a good guy to take a gamble on. And it could develop even as much as it's still a victory, I guess I would say. What I'm trying to say, like what happened with Gabriel Carrier, not Carrier, Gabriel Carrier. The Sharks signed him out of, I'm sorry, the Barracuda
Yep.
signed him out of college, out of Vermont, and he clearly showed upside in his game that he took the Barracuda backup job from Georgi Romanov and won a lot of important games that helped the Barracuda get to the playoffs when Askarov was hurt, and he got himself an NHL contract. And so Matt Davis has this kind of same runway and opportunity here. And he seems like I chatted with him for 10 minutes in LA, just got to know him a little bit. Cool side fact, his cousin is Dylan Brooks of the Houston Rockets. And Matt's actually a very good interview. He talked at length about how Dylan Brooks embraces, if you know anything about basketball, can't believe the Lakers lost in 5. Anyway, Dylan Brooks embraces, he's the villain. He's like the Tom Wilson of the NBA, not the perfect comparison, but
Hmm.
anyway, Dylan Brooks embraces being the villain. Actually, I think that's what his Twitter is called. I don't know. I was looking at
Interesting.
something. Yeah, like he really does embrace that. But anyway, Matt Davis says though that off the court that Dylan Brooks is like the nicest guy, really humble, really helpful with sort of his
Cool.
training techniques and whatnot for his cousin, but it's a interesting kind of relationship there though, between a Barracuda goalie, national championship winning goalie with Denver, with an NBA player. Yeah, that's actually what Dylan Brooks calls his Instagram. It's yeah, it just in the description it just says villain.
Hmm.
Anyway, though, so anyway,
Um.
Matt Davis, good shot to take.
Yep.
No notes. Hopefully he works out. If he doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that
Okay.
there was anything wrong with it. That's the right kind of guy that you take a shot on. A guy like Krona, maybe it's a little more projectability because of his size, but
Sure.
that's a good guy to take a shot on too. And you just take shots on different goalies, and maybe somebody turns out to be not just a little better than expected, but a lot better than expected. And that's the lottery there.
We talk about it next, but also the NHL announced that the NHL draft lottery.
Look at that segue. Hey, look at this guy with a segue.
Yeah. The draft lottery is on the 5th. That is the next big news that we're gonna have for the Sharks. So that is the next shot that we can take.
We did a draft lottery mailbag last year. I think we expected to do the same. Yes. So just a little sneak preview on that.
Yes. So after we win the draft lottery, you guys can send us all about questions about Matthew Schaefer.
Technically, and this, I'm as responsible for this as anybody, but if the Sharks get the number 1 pick, they did not win a draft lottery. I want to be clear because a lot of fans are confused by it's not their fault, and we meaning me and other journalists, media people have added to it by using the wrong terminology. So there is a rule, new draft lottery rule. I think it was from 3 years ago, maybe, that if you win the lottery, 2 times out of 5 years, you can't win it more than 2 times every 5 years, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people were like, "Oh my God, if the Sharks win the number 1 pick, then that means they're out of because they won the Macklin Celebrini pick. That means they're out of Gavin McKenna." And that's not true because the Sharks were the worst team last year. They're the worst team this year. So that's not actually winning the lottery. That's you just get the pick you're supposed to get basically as the worst team. Now, who this could apply to is the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks did win the lottery in 2023 when they moved up from the 3rd best spot or the 3rd worst spot, depending on how you look on it, to get the number 1 pick. So that's a win. They moved from 3 to 1. If the Blackhawks win the lottery on Monday, they move from 2 to 1. That's another win. And so that would take the Blackhawks out of the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes. So just to be clear, just so everybody knows, I've mentioned a few times online too, but I'm going to say it here too.
Yeah, we should do some, I guess you could do some calculations to see if there's a couple of teams, like if 2 teams won the draft lottery and moved up, like we get 2 teams out of the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, and then it's a smooth sailing for the Sharks next year.
Well, Chicago's the obvious one, though, that you do want to take out of the sweepstakes, for sure. But we talk all about, speaking of segues, how the Sharks, you don't want to be the worst team in the league next year, even if for a prospect as good as Gavin McKenna.
Yes, we are doing our damnedest when our 3-headed GMing to make the team not the worst team in the NHL. So, all right, y'all, this is going to be quick because we have a long segment with JD, and next week is going to be a very long episode with a very long mailbag, I am sure.
Hopefully not 4 hours, and we're going to split it, all right? We're not putting out one episode together.
Maybe. Can't, no promises. All right. We will see you next week after the Sharks win the lottery. See you guys. Bye. This week on the San Jose Hockey Now podcast, we welcome JD Young somehow for the first time on the San Jose Hockey Now podcast. JD Young, obviously host of the Locked On Sharks podcast. You guys know him. You love him. You want to see more of him. And he's here this week to talk a little bit of off-season hypotheticals. We're gonna dive deep into what happens if the Sharks get the number 1 pick, what happens if they don't, some free agents that we could be looking at over the offseason, maybe some trades, anything to improve this god-awful Sharks team. So welcome, JD Young.
Thanks, guys. I know it has been a long time coming to get all 3 of us here. So, when you produce like 7,000 shows a week, it gets a little busy sometimes. But, we're here. We're going to do this, and everyone's going to come listen to Locked On Sharks, which some people would say is the premier hockey podcast. I wouldn't.
I would say it's a premier hockey podcast.
It's a premier.
It's on the top line. It's on the top line.
It's in the top 6.
It's a complimentary player on the top line.
Definitely does not drive play. Yes. Definitely cheats for offense.
It's definitely cherry picks a little bit, but
cherry picks defense for nerds.
I would say your podcast is definitely like the forechecker of the San Jose Hockey Now podcast, if that makes you feel better.
We are not backtracking, though. We are not backtracking.
We're not backtracking. You're forechecking.
We're forechecking. Do not backtrack. Don't backcheck. You're lucky if we get back over the blue line. So
you really love hitting, but only in the offensive zone. There's no defense. Yeah, no defense is for nerds.
Defense is for nerds, famously. So no, it's good. I'm glad to be here. It's been a long time coming. So
And today we're going to put on our GM Mike Greer cap, and obviously the Sharks are in. I don't know what year the rebuild that you would call it. For me, I say that once they traded Timo Meier, they were in the rebuild. That was when the decision was made. That's what it is for me. So let's say that they're about to enter year 3 of the rebuild, basically. And so, what's the next step for this team? They have Macklin Celebrini, they have Will Smith, they have Askarov, they have a lot of prospects otherwise in the system. So what is the next step? We're all going to put on our GM cap right here, our Mike Greer cap, and put that on. And let's see what we think of here to make this a better team.
Okay, there we go. No, okay, that's it.
Doesn't
My
work.
old-
JD, you should put on a Miami Dolphins cap. That's a Greer cap going.
That
This
is
is
a Greer
super
cap.
old.
I don't know how much longer Chris is going to be in a position, but we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah, I mean, I like you mentioned, right? This team has a lot of stuff. They've been, kind of building, and wherever I kind of put the rebuild. I think that Timo Meier is a fair spot to kind of start the rebuild there. So yeah, we're I guess year 2.5-ish of the rebuild here, and it does feel like Mike Greer. I mean, he said it himself, right? We have to start building something here, and you have $40 million in cap space. You have a ton of assets. You have a ton of holes on this team, and I'm curious to see how
more
Greer
holes than cap
does.
space.
Yeah, more holes than cap space at this point. Is this the money pit? Is we just be throwing a bunch of money into that? But no, I am curious to see how Greer kind of navigates this. Like, yes, we want to build through the draft. We want guys like Celebrini and Smith and whatever, like Chernyshov and Musty and whom these other guys eventually come up. But you still gotta put out a competitive team, right?
Yep.
This team can't be the worst team in the NHL again next year. Like, if this team is that in the Gavin McKenna, front running the Gavin McKenna, yes, some fans will be very happy, but I think there's gonna be a lot of really unhappy fans of going 3 straight years of just being bottom feeders.
Yeah, I think you're right. They can't be the worst team. I think they probably still will be the bottom 5, probably, maybe bottom 10. But
I think they're good. My
expectations
expectations a Ducks type of jump. If you're picking 8th or 9th in the draft next year, I think that's a realistic and huge improvement. But
That's a
anyway,
huge improvement, though. I don't know. I'm not that optimistic.
Yeah.
His name's Askarov. That's my
That's true.
That's true. But what's the other goalie's name?
Going from league what the Sharks just put out there in goaltending to if you're just anywhere near league average in goaltending, I think I think that's a huge. That's your pathway to a team that lost a bajillion games by 1 goal. I think that's your pathway to being making a Ducks sort of run. So, but anyway.
And we'll talk about free agents, and I think maybe we can get into goaltenders with that conversation. Let's start with the draft lottery, which has officially been announced in 4 days. They waited till the last moment to give us an actual date. It's May 5th, and the Sharks have the best odds again to get the number 1 pick, but doesn't feel like the kind of year doesn't where you really, really want to win it. Last year, it was I prayed to the gods and cried a little bit when they won. This year, I'll be sipping some beer and watching television going, they won. Hopefully.
The Sharks even sent me to the draft lottery last year to win it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, they made Sheng
did not
swear to
send me
secrecy.
there.
Well, somebody sent you there.
NBC sent me there.
Oh, yeah, well, same.
To win it, yes.
So what happens if the Sharks get the number 1 pick? Are we all going Matthew Schaefer? Is that it? Should we hang our hats on that? This hat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could talk me into the Misa thing because, right, especially if you have questions about if Will Smith's a center, and Mike Greer is pretty adamant that he wants to at least give Will Smith a run to be a center. And while Misa does offer, I think, a little bit better 2-way game. If you're like a potential Logan Couture type of player, I think Michael Misa is more of that type of guy than Will Smith, which is very much let's just play offense and maybe we'll get back and play a little defense, and you could definitely see that. But Schaefer is the dude in this draft, and I know he's only played 12 games. I think it was 17 OHL games and a handful of because he had mono and then he got hurt at World Juniors. For me, it's Schaefer, because I think he is the best player in this draft. Even though Michael Misa had an outstanding season with Saginaw, I think Schaefer also answers a lot of the Sharks' questions on the blue line, and I'm very high on Sam Dickinson. I think Sam Dickinson is going to be very good, but if you can slot Schaefer Dickinson in some sort of out there, that's a really nice combo to put out there, and especially with the way Schaefer skates, the way he can drive offense, the way he also plays in his own defensive zone, and he's super young. Like he's like 2 weeks away from being in the 2026 draft class. So for me, it's Schaefer, like hands down, best day of my life. Yes, that is
second best day of your life.
So
maybe third or fourth after the birth of your children. Maybe
that's still to be determined with the
we'll see what Macklin does. All right.
Yeah,
Macklin Celebrini lottery win.
Yes.
Whatever kid you like better, Schaefer, least favorite kid. Got it. I agree. I think he answers so many questions. It has to be Matthew Schaefer, and then obviously Greer putting out those like, oh yeah, maybe we'll trade the pick. Bunch of malarkey.
Well, I like how the Ricky Williams trade, the Herschel Walker trade. If he give him that, maybe he will send that.
I know. I went on my podcast. I went through and put up the graphic of those trades, and it's 10 draft picks, including 3 first round, especially the the Herschel Walker. And it's just nobody's doing that for Matt. I think Matthew Schaefer's gonna be a really great player. Nobody's doing that for Matthew Schaefer. Whoever is doing that, it's because I don't think Schaefer's gonna be in the NHL next year. I just especially with missing so much time, you if maybe a Celebrini and Bedard of a team with you could talk, type of thing. It's the old, how many first round picks would it take to get Connor McDavid, right? It's 5, 6. You're probably starting to get in the ballpark. Nobody's doing that for Matthew Schaefer.
Yeah, not the right year. Maybe Gavin McKenna next year.
Gavin McKenna next year. Gavin McKenna is pretty sick.
So Keegan, your vote is to keep that number 1 pick.
Yeah, we're
okay.
Done and done. I think you go, hooray! We got our first pairing defenseman, and we got our franchise center in back-to-back drafts. Great, excellent. And we're done.
I am still wondering if everybody is consensus on Schaefer being a true blue number 1 defenseman. I checking on it a month ago, and I gotta check again, but he hasn't played at all, so I don't know if it'd be any different. But talking with scouts a month ago, they were like, well, we like him, but maybe he ends up more like your number 2 defenseman. And so anyway, that's not what we're debating right here specifically, but I would say that I would consider it doesn't have to be the Herschel Walker package, but what the Sharks need is a number 1 defenseman, be it somebody in the future, 3 years from now, or even as soon as next year. And so if someone was willing to offer up a true blue number 1, a young guy, which there's pretty much nobody out there that really fits the bill, but so it's not likely. I think you're going to keep that pick and go with Schaefer, but let's say Buffalo says, hey, we're going to give you Rasmus Dahlin, and you give us the number 1 pick and some other stuff. Okay, I think about that.
Yeah, but again, why would Buffalo do that?
I agree. That's why it's
you're
not
downgrading.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing is everyone is who's dude, I got some extra number 1 defenseman. You want one?
You want an extra?
You want one? Yeah. They put 2 of them in my bag. Do you want one, bro? Nobody's offering
there is no one else out there that I can think of that he's even remotely available. Dahlin only because Buffalo is always a messed up situation, so you never know what they're going to do. Byron,
and they do have a lot of good defensemen.
But those guys are number 1s though, right? So I wouldn't do it for Byron or Power. I wouldn't do it for Dobson.
I would take this swing, especially with how young Schaefer is, right? I mean, again, he's almost the 2026 draft class.
Sure.
Maybe the number 1, maybe he's a really high end number 2. That's better than what you got right now.
Way better.
Absolutely.
Right. And again, I like Sam Dickinson. If Sam Dickinson slots into your second or third, if Schaefer's on your top pair and Dickinson's running your second pair, and you can run those guys out for 50 minutes a night between the 2, that seems like a great problem to have. So yeah, no, I just like the talk of the trades, and we're going to talk about trading back here again. I just don't see it, and especially in this year's draft class where like it's really like a 4-person draft class, and then it falls off after that. There's the value isn't there, and you're not getting a number 1 defenseman from whoever you traded for. Like,
Right.
just stick and pick and take the best player, because if not, you're probably going to actually regret it. And plus, having the young player under an ELC contract is more valuable than whatever guy you're probably getting. Then you're going to have to turn around and pay at some point much sooner rather than later. So
yeah, I
pick a pick, baby.
I like stick and pick. That's a great phrase. My only thought is just that you need to be better sooner than later for Macklin. You don't need to sell out and be an awesome team for Macklin next year. But I've used this comparison a couple of times, not to terrify people, but what happened with John Tavares and the New York Islanders, the Sharks should learn from that. And the Islanders had a decade to put a great team next to around Tavares, and they failed to do it. And Tavares took the first chance that he could to get out of town.
That's fair.
So the Sharks have that clock of about, it's a lot. It seems like a lot right now, right? But a couple of years down the line, it's not going to be that long away. And so I think they have that. I don't know this for a fact. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Macklin's going to leave. Of course, that's too long from now. But that's what you're kind of working against. That's your kind of timeline there.
Yeah, but like, although Schaefer's not going to be in the NHL, most likely not. I think he's going to be an NHL player of the year after that. So
hopefully.
And again, you do have a lot of pieces coming, and you do have like a lot of cap space. Like you said, it's not fair to Macklin and Will Smith to just run out the same group of jabronis and be like, hope you guys got better. They do need to be active this offseason to build a better team. But again, I think it's going to be a threading the needle for my career of like, I have all these dudes that are coming, and I believe in these guys, but I still need to make this team better right now, because it's not like you're not going to develop Celebrini and Smith to their best capability. Again, if they're just out there with, like some of the guys that they had to play with, or like having to be in these bad situations all the time, like they do need to do something. But I do agree, like you don't need to sell out, but you do need to be active and make this a better hockey team. But and that's but I do think Schaefer though, like, solves a lot of answers. And I do think the ceiling is extremely high, and maybe it's not like number 1 defenseman, but again, if it's like a really, like, how many teams actually have a number 1 defenseman though? Like true, legit number 1 defenseman.
32, JD. Not just joking.
32. Mario Ferraro, come on down, baby. But like, I yes, you would love to get a number 1 Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes type of defenseman, but there's a reason why those guys are Cale Makars and Quinn Hughes. They're very special players, and they're very hard to find. So can he be Heiskanen or somebody like that, who's super awesome, super solid, plays full 2-way, can give you 60 to 70 points a season on the blue line? Like, that would be a huge boost for what the Sharks have. So
well, Heiskan's the number 1. I would probably trade a number 1 pick for Heiskan straight up, but let's move on though.
How long is his contract for? He's probably under for a while. Right?
He's gonna just sign, I think, an extension.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not paying him. He is a true number 1. So
he is but like anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. You never really. It's interesting with Schaefer just because there's so many variables about how young he is and how little he played this year that we have no fucking idea, to be honest with you. Like
that's right. I can say swear words.
We can swear.
We're out of the family-friendly confines of Locked On, JD.
Yeah, you're not owned by a media empire. That's I have.
Well, it's just funny because like you listen to the scouts when Schaefer was like dominating, going to the World Juniors, and then he had that super good game. It was like, holy shit, Schaefer's number 1 with a bullet. Like, this kid's gonna be great. And then because he hasn't played, and like other guys like Misa and Frondell have had good moments, everybody's like, oh well, is Schaefer really number 1? It's like, I think he still is. We just haven't had a lot of games of him to see. It's just the games that he did have were excellent. So
yeah, I'll swing on that.
Yeah, you're hoping on upside, and for the Sharks, it makes total sense. It's a little bit different for places like Chicago, where maybe they don't want somebody like Schaefer because they have so many defense, not so many, but they just drafted D last year too. So
yeah, and Kurchinski 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Yeah, they have a lot of So
So that brings us to the second and third overall picks, which is generally where the Sharks are either going to draft 1, 2, or 3, unless they trade down. Most likely 3, actually, for everybody to listen.
Thanks, Keegan.
But that was the same last year, and you know what? We got Celebrini, so who cares? But 2 and 3, how do you have 2 and 3 set up, JD, right now?
I would go. So if the Sharks get 2, I think it's Misa, no questions asked.
Okay.
He's the best forward in this group to me. Like I kind of, he does remind, like watching him. I think he was asked a lot for Saginaw, and that was a team that had. I mean, yes, they had Zane Parekh, but they had no defense, and it was very much a running gun. But he played all situations. Kind of reminds me of a Logan Couture type of player, like I kind of mentioned earlier, where I do think he's going to be solid in the defensive zone, like a full 200-foot type of player. And if you could potentially run Celebrini 1, Michael Misa 2, and then you just put Will Smith back on the wing, and then your 3C, of course, Zach Ostapchuk has been, put in there with a Sharpie now for the next, 20 years after this trade. But
I don't agree with that, though. Well, we don't need to talk about that.
We don't need to, believe me.
We don't need to talk about Zach for an hour.
Poor Zach. This poor kid's going to get forever just lambasted for something that not even his fault. But anyway, but if you have that as your top 2 centers, you're looking really good. I'm curious to see what Misa does if he goes to college next season, which I think would be the best move for him, is to go to college, and go play college next year and kind of make that jump and start playing against some older players. But he's number 2 for me easily in this class. So, number 3 is where things get interesting, because I do think it's 1, 2 is pretty easy, and then 3 through 7,
a lot of names.
It's a lot of names and a lot of shake up the board and how you feel with it. So, you the 2 I'm kind of debating between the most would be Porter Martone and James Higgins, who are kind of the 2, the 2 other forwards. Martone does provide you a little bit something different that the Sharks don't have in their forward group. He is a big kind of power forward-esque type of player. I do think there's some, pace issues, kind of watching him a little bit. James Higgins, who, was kind of the number 1 guy coming into this class, I think can do, a lot of the same stuff that Michael Misa has, maybe not as high end, especially in the offensive zone, but I do think he's a better 200-foot player right now. Didn't have the best year with Boston College, but I think also the comparisons to Will Smith and then the line he was playing on, he was kind of putting in unfair expectations with there. But I do think James Higgins is still a really great player. And again, you have your 1C figured out with Celebrini, right? If Higgins is your 2C, you're feeling really good about your situation. So those are the 2 I would probably, you could maybe talk me into Frondell and maybe talk me into Victor, but I think those would be a little bit of a reach person.
Wow, Victor at 3. Okay.
And that again, Victor has that dog in him, man. If
Victor
you put
does.
Victor out, you put Victor out there, if you actually putting Victor out there with Will Smith, where Victor would do the Ryan Leonard, I'm going to get the puck and there's nobody's going to take it away from me. And then I'm just going to get to the net. Victor does have that dog in him, but it's definitely a reach at 3 though. But in this year's class, it's so weird. So.
Yeah. That would be if you got 3, for some reason you didn't really love Martone or Higgins, maybe you could trade into 5, 6, 7 and get somebody if you got a super good
package.
Value,
but who's doing that?
Nobody does it.
Nobody does it. The most the Sharks should trade down. Nobody's doing that.
Nobody would.
It just doesn't happen. It's
I lead Martone. I really like that combination of his hands, his skill at his size. I think the rest of it you just kind of hope is going to figure itself out. The package that he has and the skill that he has is up near the top of the class. But it's, I know,
Mike Greer having to pick between a Boston College guy or a really big dude, and it's just sweaty trying to pick the 2.
Well, no, you said Boston College, not a BU guy. If it was a BU guy,
a Boston guy,
a Boston kid,
a Boston kid. Just
I know. I just don't see the Higgins thing. I think if they were in 4 or 5 position, then they would be Higgins makes a lot of sense now. Unless Higgins had this ungodly year, but he didn't have like a Jack Eichel year, a Celebrini year. He didn't have like that. I'm
Even
in
a Will
college.
Smith year.
Even a Will
Yeah.
Smith, but I mean, Will Smith was NTDP in his draft year rather than D+1. But it's like the same thing. You wanted, because they're in the same line essentially, you wanted Higgins to be better. And I've watched Higgins so many times, like like the good things he's good at, but he gives you the vibe of like going to be a good player in the NHL, but like 5-10 years from now, you're just like, oh, is Higgins doing anything? Like in like the Game 7 of a Stanley Cup playoff series, you're like, is Higgins doing anything, or is he just kind of like going through the motions, being the same player he's been? And that's what worries me. It's like, he's a good player. I don't know if he's going to be like a elite.
Does he have the dog
player? I don't know if he's got the
dog for
dog.
60. Keegan.
Is that the question?
Dog for 60.
The
I don't
dog
think
for
Martone has
next
the dog
shirt.
either.
Does he have the
but-
dog in it?
I don't think
Yeah.
Martone has the dog either, but Martone has that, like, I don't know. There's just a skill level with him that I really, really like. And I'm not a normally like a go for the big kid, kind of draft guy, famous Neil Gushtin truther, but like, I don't know. Martone gets it. And yeah, I would say Misa too. Makes the most sense. Misa's just got everything. Then he's going to be a great NHLer. You can just see it.
Yes. Yeah.
I apologize. I keep turning my head because I'm watching the game. So it looks like Vegas just scored on a power play with 4 minutes left. So anyway,
helps for my bracket, hurts my soul.
Does it? But anyway, though, I think with Martone and JD, you mentioned that the Sharks don't have that in the system, but of course, the Sharks have been trying, or they don't have that on the team right now. They do have it in the system. That's Mike's been trying to draft that guy for the last 3 years. That big power forwardish guy with touch, Cam Lund, Quentin Musty, Chernyshov, right? And so I would guess that could be their guy if they do fall to 3. But
that would be my guess too. If I had to like betting odds or whatever, I would say if the Sharks are at 3, I think Martone is the heavy favorite in that spot right there because he seems like a Mike Greer type of dude. So
no pun intended, heavy.
Yeah. Heavy.
Anyway.
Yes.
Same thing though that I do think. Oh, Minnesota just scored though. Oh, we have a game here.
Let's go Wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Same thing though, where I think that the Sharks, if they have the opportunity to kind of accelerate the rebuild just a little bit for the right guy, and like you said, JD, the trade probably isn't going to happen. It's not a likely thing to happen. But if it were to come to them to get somebody that is in that under 25 range that is going to be a core player, then you think about it.
Yeah, I do. I think that's where the Dallas pick comes in. Like, because of, you do have 2 first-round picks, right? I do think, like, would you be shocked if that Dallas pick gets swung for a young defenseman or like a young player who maybe like 23, 24-year-old player who's maybe
a little bit
not a fit? Like, I think that Dallas pick is 100% in play for that. And that's where I think Mike Greer goes with it this offseason. And like who that is there's pick a hat. There's a bajillion guys that like seem like they potentially want out and guys that get traded all the time. But like, I don't think you trade a top 5 pick. I still think that's so valuable. But that Dallas pick has me like, my bold prediction is the Sharks do not make a selection with that. Like this offseason, that's gonna be my bold. Like, I don't think the Sharks make a pick with that Dallas pick. I think they trade that for a either soon to be NHL player or a guy who's, maybe like type of almost like a Shakir. I don't want to say Shakir Mukhamadullin because he's still spent some time, but like a guy who's ready to kind of take a bigger role, like, and maybe just doesn't have a pipeline to go forward in it with his current team.
Yeah. That I agree with. I thought at first you're thinking kind of like on the higher end of the young player scale, like it could be part of like, say, you didn't say this player's name, but like adoption, right? Like I think that's reaching too far. The back end of the first round is not, from what I understand, it's not considered that.
It's not
that great.
It's not.
I mean, there's a reason why like the Sharks got traded Granlund, a UFA, 32-year-old UFA for it. Lofton, Toronto, Philadelphia. It's not going to be a pick that attracts somebody like super high end, but it can get somebody that kind of waiting in the wings, like you mentioned, like maybe a Simon Nemec, maybe you didn't say that, but Jiricek type, which is what Jiricek basically went for. Maybe
plus some extras. Like
Here's
or a couple years ago, it's like Niels Lundqvist, right? He went to the Dallas of, funny to talk about a Dallas late pick, but yeah, something like that, even though Niels hasn't really worked out. But
here's my what team right now has like the most drama always that's kind of just north of us? Just
oh my God, Quinn Hughes is coming to San Jose.
Yes, Quinn Hughes. No, Tom Willander of the Canucks.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Teens pick, right? Right-handed defenseman. They're
in
struggling.
College.
That's a good call.
Swedish kid going to college.
Yeah.
We know Mike.
He loves all of these.
You've been in Boston sometime. Let's go. No, but like, they're having trouble getting him. Like, is that enough for a guy who's 2 years out from his draft, was a teens pick, early teens, but like it definitely seems like the relationship between the team and the player aren't the greatest right now. That guy feels like maybe he's not an NHL player next year, but like, is he,
maybe 2 years, right? Yeah.
Maybe spends a year in the AHL. I think the Barracuda are still going to be pretty good next year with the pieces they have coming in. It's going to be, I think, a solid Barracuda team next year as well. And then come play here for a season. Cool. You can come up and play. And that's a good pick.
That's a good one. Yeah. And also the micro MO that we've talked a lot about, Keegan, too, is to target guys that are not quite as young and a little bit closer
that
to
almost
the
NHL
maybe.
ready, right? Just on the verge of being NHL ready. Yes. Yeah. And I think he is on the verge. I think that's one of those situations where Mike Greer probably licking his chops going, so.
Yeah. I got to pull up that meme. Guy behind the tree.
Yeah. Yes.
It's always interesting. It's like I don't know what Vancouver. I never know what Vancouver's doing.
No, but can he be a normal team?
I know. Yes. They're like good. Are they bad? Are they rebuilding? Are they not? It's
be a normal franchise.
Be a normal franchise. Just be normal. But yeah, I have no idea if they would be like, oh yeah, first round pick and like something else. Great.
You throw them something else. Yeah.
Or they'd be like, no, we want to win. So like, where's your ready defenseman? Where's your top six forwards? Like
where are our ready defensemen?
I have no idea. They're gone.
Anyway,
you wonder if maybe like that, like a Jack Thompson, like a guy who's kind of like AHL NHL type of guy, can kind of come in and play for them if they need some like type of thing. I wonder if that where maybe makes a little sense type of.
I don't know if that's quite enough, but anyway, it's a good target though, for sure though. Yeah. So
there's a bunch of guys like that every year. It seems like it's just somebody grabs them. It's just how much it's going to cost.
I'm with you though, that I don't know if they're actually going to make that pick. So.
Yeah, it's doesn't seem like it. Even Greer, I think, in his press conference was like,
we're trading this bad boy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm getting this.
They probably even haven't scouted the back of the first round. It's like,
we're not.
We got a whole month.
We'll figure this out.
We got
this shit out, man. So that's, but definitely I would be upset if they traded the top 3 pick, I think, unless it was somebody obviously like super good, but I want that shiny new toy. I don't just want another
new toys anymore though. That's my argument.
You need one more. One more.
No. Unless the name is Gavin McKenna, you don't need any more new toys.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next topic, which is how much money are you going to give Mitch Marner in free agency?
Just not enough.
Not enough.
I don't like. I see like people wanting to get Mitch Marner, right? And I understand it. Mitch Marner's a very good player.
Yes.
If you get Mitch Marner though, it changes the organization, right? Because like if any Locked On Sharks, I have my like kind of phases of rebuilding, right? And I think the Sharks are entering their fun and frisky phase, right? Where they're going to be a little bit more fun and frisky phase.
Oh, yeah,
right?
You have your 80-year-old in Florida villages. Yeah.
The future is frisky.
Fun and frisky. Where they're entertaining to watch. They're not going to win every game, but like, they're just a more pleasing product type of. And Mitch Marner, if you get Mitch Marner, then it's like when are we making the playoffs?
Yeah, when are we winning?
When are we winning? And I don't know if the Sharks are ready for that yet.
Sure.
So, and I like you wonder too, like with the whole Leafs for the core four and stuff, like they didn't really have a fun and frisky phase, right? It was like they got Austin Matthews, it's like, guys, we got to go now.
Yeah.
So I do like Marner would be a huge addition, but the way Mike Grier has gone about this, I don't see it, to be honest. I do think they will try to get a good player, as they should try to get good players, but I don't know if they get the bell of the ball. And it will be interesting because like that was always one of the big criticism of Doug Wilson, right? Is he could never land the big fish in free agency.
Sure.
You know, it was, and like, not that I think Mike Grier needs to do that this year, but next year, right? Like when the Sharks are probably going to be, kind of turning up the heat on this thing, is Grier going to be able to land that big fish? Like when it comes to free agents and stuff. And the one, one of the things that Doug Wilson could never do. And again, I don't think the Sharks should be in a position to get Marner because I just think it messes your timeline up really bad and pushes things. I think it accelerates things too quickly for them, but.
The list of free agents for next year currently include, not this year, but next year, Connor McDavid, noted good player.
Noted
Kyle
good player.
Connor, noted good player. Jack Eichel,
Yes.
Artemi Panarin, Martin Necas, Adrian Kempe, Alex Ovechkin, Alex Tuck, Kopitar.
Ovechkin, come home, baby. Your favorite team growing up.
Yeah. So there are definitely names next year. Whether or not
80% of those guys will just re-sign with their team, 100%. And yes,
they'll never see them, and they'll
never even sniff close. Like 80% of those guys will re-sign with their team, and half of them are going to re-sign on July 1st.
Yeah, it's already going to be over.
But
so we can still talk about Connor McDavid in a Sharks uniform. We can still dream about it.
I know.
There will be some big name though. Like this year, it's Mitch Marner. Next year, it could be Kaprizov or whoever the hell. But it's going to be some big name. So you're right. I think next year is the time. I don't know. I do want to sign Mitch Marner. So I'm not
really.
Yeah, I do. I think
he's a good player.
He's a great player.
Yeah. Well, what kind of contract would you offer him? 7 years, let's say.
7 years,
$13
million. Yeah.
What's his project? I think his projected is like 14 or something like that.
You probably got to beat that then. So you got to beat whatever Toronto offers. Would you give him 7-15?
No,
I wouldn't do it.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
You're
the one who wants him. So.
I do want him, but I think there is and I said this before. The NHL is moving from like a cap restricted era where it's like what matters most is how you can like cook the books and like how these players mean this much for their dollar amounts to like get all the fucking good players you can. Like we're moving to like we're inflating the cap a lot. You're gonna need good players. You're gonna need the super teams. Like you need 3 lines like of great players. Dallas has like I don't know 10 star forwards. Like however many. Like
I think all the Dallas forwards are stars, but that's just me. Even their defense might be stars too.
I hate you. I love you, but I hate you. Anyway, yeah, you know what I mean. But basically, we're moving to like instead of like a cap crunch era to like a accumulate asset era. I think in the NHL, and like if one of them is Mitch Marner, even though he's expensive, I think that's one of the best assets in the league. So if we can get it,
it's very good. How will this affect the Sharks' ability to close out playoff games? Apparently, because I know people are just like he's a playoff
get
joker.
There first.
I know. That's my thing. It's like let's just make like even be in the mix. I'll be happy to be in the mix for the playoffs. Let alone like why is Mitch Marner can't close playoff games? I'm just
So, we'll see when we get there, I guess, and figure it out. So I don't know. Like I said, there's only going to be one of these guys every year. You should be in the hunt for it every year, even if this year is probably not going to be the thing. Because you have the cap space more than any other team in the NHL right now. So
right.
The Blue Jackets, they're $1 bajillion in cap space too. But I do wonder if the Blue how aggressive they're going to be. But that's for a different podcast. But I get it. I bet again. I think the Sharks just going from like being the worst team to just like a fun and frisky, like the vibe, just continue the good vibes right now. Yeah, the vibes do matter a lot. And I think like
I get it.
putting that pressure. I think just not putting that pressure on Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, where it's like, okay, we got to go now, guys. Like, like let them continue to develop naturally and stuff. And I like I said, I think with Marner, that just, if you get Marner, like that changes just how you have to operate as a franchise and like kind of that time. And, you mentioned the timeline, right? Like we don't want to be where with John Tavares with Macklin Celebrini, but like I think it just pushes things really fast, really too fast for me. So
too fast, too furious.
Too fast, too furious.
And it's also kind of against the way that Greer has operated for 3 years. So it'd be weird if he suddenly like shifted gears and was like, we're going all in, baby.
We're going all in, yeah. And then you don't want to be the Kings. Like you don't want to be the LA Kings, right? Who like it felt like they started going in a little too soon, and now they're just stuck with this team that can't get past Edmonton for 4 straight years, right?
Yeah. Well, tonight we'll see.
So
in Edmonton,
in Edmonton, yeah.
I have a slightly different way of looking at it. I agree with JD that I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't do it because I'm not sure if Marner is the guy that I want to commit 7 years to or 8 years to if you trade for him.
I don't think since he wasn't on your I'm not.
Well, you can trade for his rights. You can do, so that's what I
But if you trade for his rights, can you still give him the 8?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
I thought he had to be on your team by the trade deadline.
Oh, okay.
That's why they had to.
Yeah.
That's why they had to Miko deal. Like they had to push that deal right away because if it wasn't done by then they weren't going to be able to get the 8 years. So if I do recall correctly, I think that is the rule where where like even if you trade for his rights, you can't get the full 8 years right now.
Okay.
So
we'll just say the 7 years then, right?
Yeah. So 7 years. So
regardless, I don't know if he's the guy. To me, it's about the right player, and it's also something I've talked about before. Using some classic examples. The best one I could think of is you got to look back a while ago on this one, but I think it was 2009 when Boston signed Zdeno Chara, and Boston was coming off. They missed the playoffs. He was 29. It didn't really seem like a sensible signing at the time, but he was the right guy. And you can build around the right guy. It might take a year or two. I think they missed the playoffs the next year with him, but the right guy that you want to be the face of your franchise for the next decade. Another example of this, not a perfect corollary with the Sharks that I've used before, is Marian Hossa. Of course, the Blackhawks were coming off a conference final, so they were kind of a step away. But the thing with Hossa, you look back and everybody says, we learned so much from that guy. Like, that is the guy. That was the right guy. And so I'm not convinced that Marner's a wonderful player. He is a good two-way player. But I don't know if he is the right guy that you want there for the next 7-8 years, So I guess what I'm saying is that there's another guy out there that wasn't Marner, then I wouldn't be so worried about accelerating the kind of the rebuild or the vibes or whatever. So, but I just not convinced that he's the guy. Nothing against him, but that he is the guy that you're kind of, because once you sink in that money toward him, then he is the guy, right? With Macklin, with Will for the next half decade or so.
That's fair. Sheng Peng hates Mitch Marner.
Well, I like that we had 3 different opinions. It makes
there's all 3 very good opinions there. Wow,
it's gonna make our viewers feel great too. All right,
the 3-headed monster GMs couldn't agree here.
Yeah.
Well, we all go to you though. So
Marner's going to
decide.
So
we're not signing. We're not making a pitch, Keegan. Sorry.
That's true. It seemed like it was 2-1. So I lose that one. We're not getting Marner. It's fine. Who are we getting? That's our next topic. God, we're good at segues. Who are we getting in free agency? Do you have a name of somebody that you think is like definitely going to be a Shark?
Definitely going to be a Shark?
Or do you think you just get the vibe?
I have no idea. Because this draft, like this free agency class is so weird. And like you look at like the top, because I do think the Sharks should try to get like you said, right? Asset, you need to get good players. Yes. And you look at the top guys like Brock Besser, like Nikolai Ehlers, like these guys they do have good things. They do have good quantities, but like every free agent, like they're going to have their warts, right? And it's just trying to kind of mitigate like okay, can we kind of grow with this guy? And I like Besser does feel kind of like a Mike Greer type of player, right? He's good in the locker room. He wore an A for Vancouver, and like he plays hard. I was kind of like digging into his stats and stuff like that. Like he plays a lot like Toffoli. He's not the fastest dude. He likes to kind of get to the front of the net. He scores some greasy goals, which the Sharks, like I said it on my podcast today, the Sharks suck at scoring goals, right? And he is a guy who scores goals. But I know like he had the one goal one year where he had 40 goals, but then it's been a lot of like 20, kind of like 20 to 25 goals. Well, 25 goals would be like second best on the team right now. Like that's a huge jump, like from what the Sharks, who a team that again, they suck at scoring goals. So and I do think his game, again, I know he's dealt with some injuries and he's dealt with some stuff here, but I do feel like his game would kind of mature okay, right? And if he's playing top 6 minutes for 4 out of the 7 years, and then he kind of slides into a middle six role as your younger guys come up, I think that's okay, right? Like I think that like he feels like a Mike Greer type of player, but yeah, I and one of those guys, like you said, right? A guy who can kind of be a pillar here for the next few years and help Toffoli kind of be that pillar guy as you're getting your young guys ready. So he's a guy I've been thinking a lot about, and I could potentially see him in Teal, but again, I'm an idiot. So sorry, I'm a fucking idiot. So
I can read you what this guy said about you. He said no, I'm not going to repeat that one. I think we'll get actually demonetized.
Yes, on Twitter. But like I do think, like you said, like I do think the Sharks need to get good players, like just get good players on the team to build, good put around Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, because I know like Barclay Goodrow's got his, he's got his positives, but like Barclay Goodrow should be playing like above third line minutes here, and right now the Sharks have no wingers for Will Smith. There's literally like nobody there you feel comfortable putting with Will Smith right now on the second.
Not really.
Line. No.
And I'm kind of tired of every December rolling around and being like, well, Luke Cunningham is the first line again, or every year Nico Sturm is our second line center. It just
you gotta have a lot of players though for that to not be a problem
anymore. That's fine. You have to spend the Sharks have to spend $20 million just to hit the floor. They have to spend money this offseason, and that's with Globe Couture's $8 million sitting there, and Vlasic's $7 million that are probably going to be your seventh defenseman next season. Like they have to spend money.
They do.
Just get good players. And I think Brock Besser, I like Brock Besser. I think he'd be a really, really good fit for what the Sharks are looking for. And again, 20 to 20, if you can get 20 to 25 goals like a season for the next 6 years out of Brock Besser, and maybe pops off for 30. He also he scored 25 goals while taking 145 shots last year. Imagine if that gets up closer to 200 shots, which there'll be plenty of shot opportunities on this team. It's not I do think he could be a guy where, again, you're probably looking at having to spend about $9 million on him a season. But the Sharks also have $1 bajillion to spend, and they have Tyler Toffoli is the only guy under contract in the 27-28 season right now. So, you have plenty of money.
Oh, here's a fun Besser fact too, that I think his brother lives in Walnut Creek. So
he's coming home,
baby.
Coming home.
Cat Toffoli.
I'm not against it.
She's making some phone calls. Noted captain of the Sharks, Cat Toffoli. So that's the real captain is Cat Toffoli. So,
if we are the Sharks' three-headed GM monster, if I've lost out on Mitch Marner as that third head, Besser's a good alternative. I don't want to give him $10 million, but 7.
I don't think 7's going to do it. I think he's going to, because he turned down a 5-year deal at 8, and maybe he wants term. That's the thing. He did turn down a 5-year deal at $8 million from the Canucks, right? Maybe it's 7 at 8.5 that you could, or maybe.
Sorry, guys.
I
beat
Sheng bows out.
Sheng, I'm out.
This is the three-headed GM monster.
It's actually a good way to do the show.
Yeah.
So Keegan, you weren't done with your reasoning.
Sorry. So I think 7.5. I'd do it. If we don't get out
7.5 for 7 years.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
He's like 28.
I don't think he
right?
signs. I don't think he signs at that.
Probably
Why would
not.
he? Unless he's just like, dude, I gotta get out of Vancouver, which is
Well,
very
he's
fair.
also like realistically, he had 50 points last year, so like
Mhm.
maybe he's like, okay, if I can get this money for 7 years, as opposed to like another. What was he? He was probably on like a 3-year contract before, 4 years.
He was at 3
something.
years at 6.75 or something like that.
He wants
yeah.
the Toffoli security. He wants that
Yeah.
like longer deal. I don't know.
I think he wants the term, but yeah, I'm curious to see what the actual contract comes in. But yeah,
Because there's another team looking with space and being like, yeah, we
that's
can give
again. There's
Besser
so many
9
teams
million.
with cap space, right?
That's
going
true.
into this off season, where all it takes is one team to be like, yeah, we'll give you 8, we'll give you 9.
Yeah, I think we might see some crazy money this year because of that.
I
Just
do
money
think you're
that
going
we
to
wouldn't
see some.
suspect.
Yeah,
Like Gavrikov or somebody random like that, just making like a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Because teams
We
have space
also-
and they need a defenseman.
Yeah, the thing about the Sharks, yes, we keep talking about forwards and all this stuff, but we need to figure out this defense, guys. We have to.
Oh, it's
we
so-
are
yeah.
the.
Well,
we
let
gotta
me
figure this shit
run through my forwards really fast.
Okay,
Before we
yeah,
get
who
to D though. So with Besser, okay. So for me, I mean, Mike said pretty clearly, and I do believe him on this one that he doesn't sound like he wants to give 6 or 7s out.
Sure.
Which I do think that's but I like you said, if it's the right player though.
Yeah,
I just don't know if he's the right player though. That's the
question.
That's my question.
Yeah.
If it's the right guy, not just the right guy in terms of like how good he is, but
yeah,
in the
like you said,
room
the
is
right
so
culture,
important.
everything like that.
Right. And there are guys that like have. I'm not saying this about Besser. I don't know if this. I didn't check in about Besser, but a guy like Ekblad, for example. Well, we're gonna get to him, but well, yeah, I'll save the Ekblad point for the defense, but I would say for forward though, I know everyone's gonna groan when you hear me say it, but I think Granlund actually is a reasonable option.
Sheng loves Mikael Granlund.
I do love my Mikael Granlund, but I think he does check a lot of boxes, and he's not. I don't believe that he's looking for such long term, and because of Dallas being full up.
Yeah, makes sense for Granlund. Yeah, he's not going to get. Yeah, nobody's going to give him like a 6-year or 7-year deal.
Yeah. Like you might want to get somebody else. I'm not saying if he's your best free agent signing this offseason, then you're just back to literally square
where
one.
you were last year.
Year. Great, wonderful. But he's a guy. If the question is who is the most likely guy, then I would say that would be my most likely forward vote. But anyway, though, yeah, let's move on to the defense, like Keegan said, and then I'll talk about Ekblad in that section.
We've got like I don't know 3-4 options of top 4 defensemen, maybe 4. We've got like Provorov, Gavrikov, Ekblad, Fabro. If you count Fabro, it is late season, not late season, but season with Columbus after being waived. And then you got a bunch of guys that like top 4 defensemen prior, Brent Burns, stuff like that. So
He's
out
old.
of like, yeah, he's old. Ekblad, Provorov, Gavrikov, or Fabro. I would lead Dante Fabro, but you'd have to pay him enough money to pry him away from a good gig in Columbus, and that's like
that is
a risk
true. And
for a guy that was
with
on
Fabro. My like I like Fabro, but he's never had to be the guy, right?
Yeah,
because
the
like
second guy.
He's the second guy, right? Wawrinski this year, Roman Josi with he's never had to be the guy. Last time I checked, the Sharks don't have Roman Josi or Wawrinski on their roster. So like you're going to have to kind of make a jump in faith there with that, like that you feel like he can kind of be that guy. And like we saw from like Jake Wallman, right, who did it for at least half a season, kind of be the guy. And then I think things kind of fell apart for Wallman this year before the trade. But in Provorov, like I was talking to my friend Jay, who does the Locked On Blue Jackets podcast, and I was asking about Provorov, and it actually sounds like Provorov wants to resign. And again, Columbus has a lot of money. They have more money than the Sharks do. And while they do want to retool their blue line, like Provorov was really good for them as well. And especially behind Wawrinski, it feels like it's a good spot for him. So like he may not even get to market. So then you're kind of, it's the Ekblad,
Gavrikov.
Like your Ekblad, who I guess we can, clear the floor for Sheng here on Ekblad, but like it gets really thin really quick for San Jose as they try to add some pieces here.
Yeah, I guess with Ekblad, before we get to Ekblad, I did want to mention with Fabro that the Sharks believe so much in Fabro that they did not pick him up off of
I know.
waivers when the Adams claim.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I don't know if that's a guy that, hey, now can you be our number 4 defenseman for the next 5 years? I don't know if they believe in him that much. But with Ekblad, I think that he is probably the closest besides Provorov to getting that 6-7 year deal, right? And the question is he the right guy for that? And for me, again, it's not so much about the player on the ice, but the leadership stuff. And I was asking around on Ekblad because I knew that we would talk about him and on today's episode. I'm not sure if he's the guy. I know he's worn the A before, and he has been part of bad teams, but in Florida, so he does have that experience of going through that for better or worse. But I don't know if he is necessarily the guy that just in the room that, just small stuff that seems stupid, but like, I've heard like thin-skinned is one thing that I have heard, and there's actually an example of that. If you remember his feud with the golfer from a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not sure. Obviously, he's won a Stanley Cup, and he is all situations guy. And even though he's not a true number 1 defenseman anymore, he could probably stand in, just like Wallman and CC kind of. They were, they did that last year of okay. And that's probably what you're looking at with the Sharks. You're not going to get that number 1 guy, but you're just looking for kind of a fill-in. And I think that overall, if you look at the rest of this class, right, like Provorov, like you mentioned, he maybe wants to go back to Columbus. I'm not sure if I can see the Sharks wanting a guy like that, but I don't know if he wants to come to the Sharks. And then the other guys on the list aren't as inspiring. So you just had to stitch something together like they did last year with Wallman and CC. And okay, it did make the Sharks more competitive, at least before they traded Mackenzie Blackwood away. So that might be what they're kind of looking at.
I think they go for quantity over quality, and I know they have plenty of guys under I think like everybody's basically under contract for one more season on for the Sharks.
They have like 5 guys that are already under contract, I think.
But it's not like we haven't seen Mike Greer. Mike Greer has never made a trade in his life. So like I do think I wouldn't be surprised if that's maybe the route they go, where it's like we're gonna sign 2 or 3 kind of maybe second pairing type of defenseman who might have to play up a little bit right now, and just to kind of, again, especially with Askarov, right? You cannot run the same group of guys back and just be like, I hope they get better.
I know. Like, it's gonna make me so mad, and it's gonna happen, and I'm gonna be sad about it. But like when Ferraro is eating every minute, and when Liljegren has to play the top 4, and when Desharnais has to spot at the top 4, I'm gonna be just upset, and I know it's gonna happen. But
it might happen after the trade deadline. So, but he can't start the season that way.
But like, I don't know, because like, right? I mean, Sheng, you can. Yeah. We know the Askarov deal was in the works for a while, right? Like this is something that Greer worked at for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do last summer before? He went out and looked at the Barracuda roster. How did he revamp that Barracuda roster? Knowing in the back of his mind, I'm getting Askarov, right? He went out, he got Jimmy Schultz, the best AHL defensive defenseman. He got Lucas Carlson, coming off an injury, but like a top tier offensive defenseman, right? You had Shakir Mukhamadullin, who, again, I assume we expected him to start in the NHL, but still.
Sure.
You had Luca Cagnoni, who, of course, popped off, but like he went out and he revamped this blue line because he knew he was getting Askarov.
In all fairness, too, that's Joe Wells, the GM of the Barracuda team. So I think a lot of that is Joe too, to give props, both of them credit for that. But I know what you mean, though. That they made
they saw it.
It's not like it's not like Joe Wells gonna be like, hey, Mike, I did all this stuff. Like I did all this stuff. You were in the bathroom, man. I did all this stuff, but like,
hey, Mike, we signed Andrew Podorowski.
We signed Andrew Podorowski. Yeah, what do you think? But like, I do think, like, it would be. You went out, you traded all this stuff for Askarov. Like you're expecting Askarov to be the dude, right? And I think we've seen enough from Askarov to feel like he's going to be a top end, goalie in the near future.
There's a chance, for sure.
There's a chance. Like you feel, he's going to be at least an upper half of a goalie. Like he's on that path type. But anyway, you can't. I don't see Mike Greer going into this offseason feeling like, we're going to go in with the guys that we have. So whether
I 300% agree with that.
It's going to be
a
tough to
couple of my
foresee
points though
who it is.
are that it's harder to improve the team like Mike and Joe did with the Barracuda. It's much harder to improve the NHL team just because it's harder to acquire talent. But the second point with that is that my point was that the Sharks did make improvements last year, right? The improvements they could on the defense, and Wallman and Ceci were, I think, real improvements on what they had.
They were,
but by the time you get to the deadline, though, it's like, well, we get a first round pick for Wallman out of nowhere, and CC is going to be UFA anyway. So that's what I mean. That it may happen by the end of next year. Keegan's nightmare of seeing Mario Ferraro's your number one defenseman and Vinny Diarnay. That's just what happens after the deadline. So
Shakir and Luca next year, just having to do it all. But no,
exactly.
But like that's why I do think though maybe they go for like let's sign a couple guys at like 2 to 3 year like type of things who are again kind of middle of the road defensemen, but are just better than what we have right now. Yeah. Again, and I think that's probably the way that they try to do this. And then, maybe going back to that Dallas pick, maybe you can take a swing with that Dallas pick to go find a soon-to-be defenseman here. I kind of think that's the playbook for Mike Grier is
they signed they signed like a Travis Hamonic, a Brian Dumoulin, and they trade for another like project pick. Yeah. That's it. And then we run Shakir and Mario Ferraro line one or pairing one. We run Dumoulin and Lil Chagrin. We run Hamonic and Desharnais / Thrun
and they run Yaroslav Askarov like how do you say his name? Austin Jonty, like the Raiders are going to run Jonty.
He's getting 600 carries.
And we have to flex seal all of Mugubadulin's joints together to make sure that he doesn't get injured. And, that's it.
Poor Mugubadullin.
I do have a lot of faith in Mugubadullin, but I'm hopeful. Okay, so what I want out of this offseason is one top 4 defenseman and one top 6 forward in some manner. So we either sign a top 6 forward,
like a real top 4, top 6, not a top 4,
not a fake one.
That would be a top 4 like on like a playoff caliber team, right?
Zetterlund was in our top 6, and he's like on the 4th line tonight for Ottawa,
right?
Like that's and I love
people
Zetterlund.
Still mad about that trade.
I know. We can talk about it, but anyway, like not Sharks top 4. I want like a real top 4, and then a top 6 top 6 forward. That's it. And if
Mitch Marner's making $20 million for you, but better
put him on defense.
Mitch Marner can play both. 2 birds, 1 stone. Mitch Marner.
Well, even then, like we have $20 million we got to spend. I mean, we do have to pay a goaltender to come here.
Yeah,
that's also something.
Jake
Allen, baby.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one. But Keegan, I want to go back really quickly. Who would you sign of this group before we get to goaltending? Before we close out here?
Oh, Brian Dumoulin and Travis Hamonic weren't enough. Those aren't the guys.
In 2017, yes, but
okay, damn it. I liked Anthony Robert. I think there's Ryan Lindgren was on the list there.
Yeah,
Lindgren would be an interesting one too. I also Nick Perbix from the Lightning. Who's
that's a good sleeper one. Yeah.
Maybe again one of those like given an opportunity, he can potentially kind of make a jump.
Trade him for first at the next deadline, like Mike really likes to do. So.
Yes. Back to the Lightning. But
I'm not excited about much of the defense. That's what sucks. It's really not a lot.
Yeah, I think they're
I think they're going to trade
Tony DeAngelo. Tony DeAngelo, please, nowhere near my team here.
Parker Wotherspoon. That sounds great. I watched him in Providence. He's fine.
Wow, really?
He is a fine defenseman.
Tony DeAngelo and Parker Wotherspoon.
He is a fine.
What's Ryan Suter? Ryan Suter can come, right?
Hey, man.
Ryan Suter and Brent Burns, man. What a pairing that would have been back in like
2015.
Before,
All-star.
We got Ryan Suter and Brent Burns. Let's go.
Let's I just wakes up from
a coma. Holy shit. Let's see. Josh Mahura. That's an okay one. Shillington, if he can ever figure it out again. Would be an interesting idea, but he didn't figure it out this year, so probably not.
No, I think that's done, unfortunately.
That's over with. Yeah. Travis Dermott, the famous Maple Leaf. Man, it's looking rough.
think it's gonna
I guess we
Let's
move
hope
on.
they make a trade.
Maybe you
we didn't
offer.
foresee the Jake Wallman trade, so something like
Maybe
that.
you do like a weird thing and give Fabro like a shit ton of AAV, but not a lot of term. Maybe give him like $6 million and be like, come here for 3 years and see if you got it.
I wonder why they passed up on him. I never asked or checked around on that, but I mean,
Yeah.
they could have just, because we know, I think Elliot Friedman had reported, I think last trade deadline, that they were interested, and I think he actually played for David
when Quinn was
right?
there. Yeah, I know Quinn liked Fabro a lot. So.
Wasn't it right after we got the Lil Chagrin trade done? It was like a week
It wasn't
later.
right after. Maybe it was like a month after.
Maybe a
month.
Yeah.
So they might have felt like, they didn't have a spot for him.
On the Sharks defense, they felt like they
on the worst team and the worst defense in the league. It's true though.
That's presumptuous.
Yeah, there are.
Or,
and this is
again, Mike Greer's cell tank. Like we're getting rid of Mackenzie Blackwood. We can't get good players right now. Let's the Mike Greer cell tank. Yes.
There's no, and again, I don't want to put anything out, but the whole Hockey Canada thing, he had like a witness role in that thing too. There's like things that came out like today.
Fabro?
Or I think it was yesterday. Fabro, Radish, and a couple other. But it wasn't like they were there. There's text messages or something.
It could have been when they could have known about it, type of. They're not there, but like kind of like when they
so maybe
open secrets type of thing.
No go. Maybe that's even why Nashville's waived him. You never know these kind of things.
Well,
Nashville behind the scenes shit. Also, who knows this? Yeah, what is Nashville doing? We're not sure.
Nashville doing?
We're not sure. Picking high this year is what Nashville's doing.
That's my poor colleagues at Locked On Preds text to me. Were like, "What do you do with the draft? Like with the lottery draft?" I was like, "I'm a lottery draft veteran, friends. I'll talk it through."
All right, guys, listen.
Gather around. I'm like Abe Simpson at the Lemon Tree.
It's called tankathon.com.
It's called tankathon.com. Here's what you're gonna do. Yeah, no. Shout out to Emma and Ann. They do a great job over there. Ann is the best, absolutely the best person you'll ever meet. So yeah, sorry, Keegan. She's the best.
That's fine. That's fine. She's probably better than me.
You're the number 2, Keegan.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we talked about goalies. They're going to sign Jake Allen at $5 million by 3
One
years.
guy. I'm just I'm just kind of throwing out there. Like if you look at Chicago's goaltending, right? They have several guys under contract here, and
sure.
Again, like who knows? But Brissois, who basically missed the entire season, but because of an injury, but like was very, very good before that. And right, they just traded for Spencer Knight. Like it feels like they have some pieces there. Maybe you can like pry him away for a cheap pick on a guy who's
for nothing, right? The guy didn't play. He didn't play.
The guy didn't play last year. Maybe you throw a late round pick. Come in, rehabilitate, come in, hang out behind Askarov, see how things go. And then, he's on, if it doesn't work out, it's a 1-year deal. Like that's just a name I've been percolating in the back of my head.
I think it's a good insurance pick. I don't think you want that to be like your how do you say it? Your written
like your first. It's your backup school. Yeah, he's your backup school pick. But
yeah, he might be like, hey, come here, join the Barracuda, see if you can find your game, and then, hey,
even if he's your third goalie in the system, right? Where like again, because the Barracuda are gonna have a very young between Romanov and Gabe Carrier, assuming both those guys are back. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out to try to find a more established, like kind of AHL goalie who can come in if you need him to play a handful of games, because we know Askarov hasn't, between illnesses and injuries, hasn't been the healthiest dude this season. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's something they looked into doing, is trying to go find just your Aaron Dell type of player without it having to actually be Aaron Dell.
Yeah, I think you need like a veteran type too, and that's what Mike Greer kind of suggested, that you don't want 2 goalies with not a lot of experience on the team. And so Jake Allen makes a lot of sense. I don't know what you guys think of like a Samsonov maybe.
Yeah, we're grabbing Peter Mrazek from Detroit, I guess, because they have
could be.
They have 1,000 goalies.
They have 1,000 goalies. They all kind of are mid,
and they all are the same.
They're all.
But I think sneaky thing though is that you got to get a guy that is good with Askarov and will teach him. And I think that's one of the interesting things that I did a story about it a week ago. I talked with Askarov about just relationships with the backup goalie, and he talked about how Mackenzie Blackwood was like his favorite, even though they only were together for like a couple of weeks. And so you want a guy like that who is going to have that personality that is going to be able to be willing to share his secrets with Askarov, but also still be a very good goalie that he can take the load if need be. And so a couple of those names stick out there. One guy that honestly, with all this cap space, call me crazy, but I call up Alan Walsh, Marc-Andre Fleury's agent, and say, here, we'll give Marc-Andre Fleury $7 million for 1 year. I don't care. Whoa. Just come here, just for the vibes. And you think that's funny, but like, you talk about like even just what Askarov said about Blackwood, right? Like to have a guy like that for a year that will impart his wisdom, that is just a good room guy, just radiates throughout the room. Like I don't think it's exaggeration. Like we didn't quite know it at the time, and it's in the end you understand why Mike Grier traded Blackwood, but the room was never the same. The team was not the same this year after Blackwood
traded,
And so I would gladly do that. I mean, it's not my money, but with that kind of cap space, Marc-Andre, here you go. Come here, pull pranks on Macklin Celebrini for a year. Here's $5 million. Here's $7 million. Talking about vibes, the vibes would be immaculate.
The Will Smith Macklin Celebrini trying to pull pranks on Marc-Andre Fleury would be amazing. Just the content alone would be worth it. Yes,
right. Just the TikTok followers you had would be worth it to the Sharks. So.
Oh yeah, you would make your money back in the views from TikTok. So with that easily.
Yeah,
Who gets the money from their TikTok? I wonder. I guess the Sharks do.
Probably
anyway,
the Sharks.
Yeah. I'm just curious. It goes towards paying Erik Karlsson's retained salary, whatever.
I did joke though. You know that Step Brothers shirt that they came out with?
Yeah.
I think they're selling at the Sharks Pro Shop, and I told Matt, I hope you're getting a cut from that. Put that idea in his head. So
yeah,
don't let the Sharks.
It's not a inspiring free agency group here, unfortunately. So
yeah, it is what it is. Well, I think we're gonna end up with hopefully something like this, like a 1A, 1B goaltender, a top 4D, a top 6 forward, and then a bunch of other guys, like just a bunch of dudes.
You're restocking the trade asset pipeline. Yes.
Yeah, it's the 4th round pick expressway. You know, it's the how to gain a 3rd rounder back in 6 months. Yeah, that's But I'm hopeful that they have sort of like that corporate energy about it. These are our goals. These are our action items. You know, like get this, and like. Not just go, maybe we can float out another garbage team.
Well, JD, do you have time for one more topic? There's one more area that we didn't really talk about, just really quickly.
Okay, we gotta make it quick.
Okay, trades. We didn't talk about trades, so yeah. So
kind of did.
Yeah, a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we didn't. People don't think that we missed it because we talked so much about free agency. And one thing that I do give the Sharks credit for, I don't. Maybe give them credit for a lot of things, but that they last offseason, I think that obviously acquiring Wallman, Steve Yzerman paid the Sharks to take on Wallman, and Wallman was a good addition to the Sharks.
Very good player, yes.
And so even Ceci, I know he's not as popular with it.
That was a good trade.
I think that was
a good trade. That's great asset management trade right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But a decent player, too, that is doing good things for Dallas now on a playoff team. But is there anybody else that you see out there that yourself, or even Keegan for you, too, just anybody that you see out there that might be a reasonable trade target that is not as exciting as a Tom Willander or some, any of the big names, Noel Dobson, right? Like, just less exciting kind of guy out there, but more realistic, maybe.
I haven't really thought about that too much. I do think it's going to I do think Grier does try to solve one of the long-term issue, holes on this team, right? With the trade. And if we've seen Grier be active in grabbing some of these younger guys and maybe try to, even like Dellandrea, right? Or Carl Grundstrom, kind of giving some guys here an opportunity to see what they can do. And, Dellandrea, he has his benefits. He also takes too many penalties. Grundstrom, I don't know about Grundstrom, but you do see him trying to go out and get some guys. So I don't know if it's going to be the sexiest trade, but we've seen Mike Grier make a bajillion trades, and I do think he will be active in the trade deadline, active in trying to acquire it. But again, I don't know if it's. I think, like I said, I think he tries to solve a long-term problem, but I do think it's a lot of maybe these kind of margin type of trades where it's like, okay, maybe this guy's not working out with you. Like, let's bring him, see if he can kind of take a, maybe a bigger role or a different change of scenery. So, yeah, it's not a very good answer, but
I'm gonna throw in. I think Keandre Miller from the Rangers. They like him, but he also is gonna get like a $5 million qualifying offer. He's an RFA.
yeah.
And
Right, night 2018 wrong right here, right?
yeah, right at 2018 wrong. Go out and get Keandre Miller. Maybe,
Yeah,
but yeah,
Keandre.
maybe there's something on the RFA to be market, not like necessarily an offer sheet. But
Oh, the
something
offer
around
sheet.
that.
People are going crazy with the offer sheets
I
this year.
know.
Like,
Not gonna happen,
conspiracies. They're not gonna. The Sharks just don't have the stuff for
No.
it. Like, they don't have their own third round pick. And are you trading an unprotected 2026 first round pick? Because I'm not looking at
Hell
next year's
no.
draft class. No.
Yeah, looking at our defense, unless again our defense improves a shit ton. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But like I think if you found a team that's trying to that maybe is up against the cap that you can trade.
And the
for one of these
Rangers are
guys.
one of those teams that are up against. I think they have like less than $10 million in cap space,
Yep.
right? And Keandre Miller is going to want a big money, and they just paid Will Borgen a ton of money as well. I could see that. I could definitely.
I think they like Miller a lot, though. I was checking in on that
Yeah.
around the trade deadline, just in terms
Yeah.
of just guys like that, like the Dobson types or whatever,
Yeah.
the RFA types. So I don't, maybe though. I mean, he's definitely the right kind of guy.
Will
Yeah.
Cooley from their
Sharks.
team as well. I love Will Cooley. I've loved Will Cooley for a long time. Since I in juniors was watching him, but he's also they're probably just going to pay him. But he had a great year this year. He kind of broke out a little bit too. So
Yeah.
I think one of these guys around that, not necessarily Rangers, but guys RFAs to be that are just starting to break in, we can find a way. Gru's just got to be active. Throw those first round picks. Maybe you end up trading both the Dallas and the Edmonton one next year. Who knows? For somebody who's super good, because you got 2 extra first round picks. So
You do have 2 extra first round picks. Yeah. And that Edmonton one. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be back in the first round, but you never know. And like that, I think the 2026 draft class is viewed as a better draft class and a deeper draft class. I mean, it's still a year.
You wouldn't
plus
love
away.
it, but if you really needed to get somebody, maybe you give both.
Yeah, you could do both. So, but I don't know. Who do you got, Sheng? You got some like random third line wingers. Like he's gonna help the PK.
Luke
Give him
Cunnin,
everything.
Again.
Luke Cunnin again
on a discount.
Yeah, Luke Cunnin.
Guys, Luke Cunnin scoring 0 goals to Columbus helps us out because he's going to be a lot cheaper as a free agent.
A lot cheaper.
You bring him back on the cheap.
Give Luke Cunnin $10 million to help get yourself closer to the cap floor. Yeah, that's we're bringing it
honestly,
back.
I haven't thought about it yet, so I don't know if I have a guy. My most serious thing is honestly call Marc-Andre Fleury. Just give him the Brinks truck.
He just did like the goodbye tour and stuff. Like you can't.
I know it's too late to, but like
it's too late to
apologize.
That
they should have though. They should have though.
If
we should have called him up like 3 months ago before.
What if you? Never mind. I was like, what if you call? Because like the Red Wings have a bunch of dudes, but all their defense, and they have a bunch of guys who are like coming here soon, but all their defensemen are not like they're super old and not really like
right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like teams who have like
cap
players coming, like not even just like players coming that that are like I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, I think Greer tries to find some short terms. Again, try to solve at least 1 or 2 long-term issues and find some short-term solutions. And then, hope everyone gets better.
We're gonna be fine.
So
that's our motto. We're gonna be fine.
We're gonna be fine.
The 3-headed GM monster here.
Before the Sharks were the terrible team after after Christmas or so, I think I predicted by the end of 2025 they would be a 500 team from like the start of the season till Christmas next year.
Oh dear Lord, you said that? Okay.
Yeah.
JD, I vote that we fired
well, I thought Askarov,
I don't trust
like NHL 500, like NHL 500.
NHL 500. Yeah,
that's doable.
Oh no, I'm gonna get fired.
That's doable. Like again, how many games does this team lose by 1 goal?
Exactly. And like at Christmas, they were not that bad before they traded Blackwood.
Again,
they were not awful.
They trade Blackwood, and you have to. The hope is Blackwood and goalie X, right? They come in, and I assume they're going to kind of probably do the Dustin Wolf thing with Askarov, where it's like beginning of the season, it's very like split the starts, right? And then as the season goes on, Askarov gets, more comfortable and kind of maybe takes over the crease. And if the Sharks are competitive, again, I don't think the Sharks are a playoff team, but like if the Sharks are competitive, he probably earns more starts. But like if you're just, you get Askarov to play in like another goalie and they're just league average.
Yeah. Prediction
comes and a team that lost a bajillion games by 1 goal.
I agree that if you squint hard enough, you can see it.
You can see it. Again, I'm not saying I'm not saying like it's going to, but I think that the pathway is there for them to be like the Ducks, right? Just be a NHL 500. So
yeah. I mean, materially, Anaheim, I don't think was even that much better a 5-on-5 team than the Sharks. They just had much better goaltending throughout the season. They didn't trade their goalies. If the Sharks had started the season with Blackwood and Askarov, and they had, like you talk about keeping Granlund and CC and Wallman, all those guys,
they're probably an NHL 500 team, but squint,
closer.
so
I'm still gonna hold Keegan to that though when it doesn't happen. So
it might happen. You're gonna have like a countdown on the like up here, like on this.
I'm gonna get a tally board. Just
where 500 banner goes up.
Yeah. I also then said that they would tank afterwards and still be like a bottom 10 team. So it was like they'd be good by Christmas, but then bad like the Sharks do.
Half credit. Half
credit for next year. So I still got time. We'll figure it out.
You got some time. So
anyway, JD, thank you so much for being on the show. This was great. We should have another show when the Sharks sign a bunch of these dudes and contemplate how good we're going to be.
And how good they're going to be. Yes.
I love it.
500.
I'm sorry.
NHL 500. That's JD, the show.
Where can the people find you?
Of course, you could find Locked On Sharks wherever you listen to podcasts that you can watch on YouTube as well. Monday through Friday, 5 days a week in your ear holes or on your YouTube screen as well. We're all the way through mid-July. We're going 5 days a week. So, and then we get cut down to 3 in the off season there until September when it all starts again. So, plenty of fun, plenty of Barracuda coverage. I'll see you tomorrow, Sheng, at the Barracuda game.
All right.
We'll have plenty of Barracuda coverage, plenty of draft coverage, all the fun stuff. Locked On Sharks. Come on, you guys know it's the JD, premier hockey podcast.
I agree that you are the premier daily Sharks podcast.
Ooh, okay. Shows up to work, puts in the
shows
effort,
up to work.
Bucks
That's
forecheck.
Yeah, half the battle just showed up to work, guys.
You're like the Luke Cunnin of now. Just
great in the room.
I think you're the Will Smith to our Macklin Celebrini of podcast.
That's nice. Yeah. That's really nice.
That's nice for both of us. Makes us both feel good. I'm kidding. Follow JD, watch all of this stuff. It's great.
It is.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Mediocre.
Thanks, JD.
Mediocre at best. Bye, guys.
Bye.